Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
It's Jessica and Angel here from DataCorps Technology Solutions, and we are here for our Monday episode of Ask DataCorps Live.
That's right.
And we have an exciting series starting today. Well, it's exciting for us. It's not so exciting for those people whose problems we find. We are going to be discussing the top 10 list that Angel has made of the 10 horrors that he finds over and over and over again when he goes out to assess a prospect or a new company's network. Usually, people will either think, hey, we're just fine, but let's look into this managed services thing, and they'll call Angel in, or they have a dramatic problem and they say, oh, please come fix it. And so Angel will look at it, and either way, the first time that he looks at a new system at a new company, he tends to find the same problems over and over and over again. So finally, we just made a list of them and decided we would share those with you so that maybe you can avoid some of those potholes along the road.
Yeah, everybody loves lists, and so I'm a list maker.
Same.
I don't even, when I'm trying to draw up a plan, it's just a list, and I have to find somebody to turn it into a plan for me. But I love lists, and as I go around the Bay Area and talk to business owners and basically run an assessment of what they have, because I get called in and it's always, hey, can you fix this for me? Or this is broken, or we can't do this, that, or the other, and my IT company can't fix it, or they can't seem to get down to this problem. And I don't like to just go in and start throwing solutions at them because, quite frankly, I don't know what to throw at them. Everything begins with an assessment. There's an old saying, prescription without diagnosis is called malpractice. And so I like to do a very thorough assessment up front so I know what's going on with the network. So this is basically just a list of, from the past however many years I've been doing this. Let's see, DataCorps is going to be completing its 14th year of business in September. So that's real exciting.
Yeah,
14 years.
That's awesome.
So in the 14 years that I've been doing this as a business, I just, tend to keep running into the same stuff over and over again.
Right. So let's start with number 10. We're going to count them down late night TV style, which may be dating myself a little bit.
David Letterman style.
Pretty sure Letterman hasn't done that for quite a few years, but still. All right, so number 10, stale AD computers. Now explain to me what that means, because I bet these fine folks don't know either.
Yeah, stale Active Directory computers. That basically means computers that used to be on your network that are no longer on your network. And they never were properly removed. And when they say where there's smoke, there's fire, well, this is one of those situations where that holds true. Usually I find this and it's a symptom of other things and other underlying things, which we'll cover in the rest of the list. But ultimately, the reason why this is so dangerous is because each of these computers represent a user, if you will, on the network and a password. Each computer has its own password that the network and the computer will negotiate on a regular basis and rotate. But these are all attack vectors. And so I'm a friend of several people that do what's called penetration testing, where they try to infiltrate a network. And they get paid to do this in order to, test a network. Because, mainly large companies do this. They have the budget for this. But the whole idea is to find these vulnerabilities. And that's been one of the attack vectors that they have found is the Active Directory credentials and computers not being removed in a timely fashion.
So then let's back this up for people who don't understand how to properly. So we're talking about you're in an office setting. You've got 10 computers in an office. One person gets a new computer, and the old computer that it replaced is the one that has not been properly removed?
Correct.
So how do you go about removing the old computer?
So there's a few things you want to do. The first thing is on the computer itself, you want to unjoin it from the domain. So it's the reverse of joining. When you join a computer to the network, you go to the system properties and you go to there's a tab in there for the domain, and you join the domain through there. Well, that same tab, you can go back into it and disjoin the computer. That starts the process. It breaks the relationship between the computer and the network. The next step is you want to go to the server, and you want to go to the computers area under Active Directory users and groups and see if the computer is still listed there. If you're using Small Business Server, that area may be under a different they're called organizational units. We'll call them folders because they look like folders.
Okay.
But it'll be under a different folder. I believe it's My Business / SBS Computers, but it'll be in there.
Okay.
And you just want to verify that the computer's been removed from there. And while you're there, you want to compare your list of current computers to what you see in there, and any differences, you want to remove them. Now, I will warn you, if you accidentally remove a computer that is still active, it will render that computer somewhat useless. You can rescue it; it's doable, but without some expert ability, you may have, it's one of those things that you can play on Google for about 3 or 4 hours, whereas it would take one of my techs 15 to 20 minutes to do.
That is what I was going to say. If any of you fine folks got completely lost in the forest of that conversation, as I did, I'm sure there was a point that my eyes sort of glazed over a little bit.
Yeah, I think I saw you trying to tell me, stop.
Pick up the phone and call Angel because, wow, okay.
So,
So it's not as easy as you might think it would be.
Right.
But it does create vulnerabilities.
I've been doing this a while, so for me, I'm just like, oh yeah, just click and done, and it's over. But so some of these things that I'm finding, they seem kind of easy, and it's a couple of clicks to fix. But understand that it took a lot of time for us to develop the discipline and the knowledge and the experience to properly execute those few clicks. So I get reminded of the old story of the ship mechanic that retired. And the ship came in and it was broken down. The engine would not start, and nobody at the shipyard could fix it. And out of desperation, the owner of the ship called in the ship mechanic, and he came in. He looked at it. He turned one bolt, and the engine started again. And the ship owner was just grateful and everything. And then he said, "Well, send me an invoice." So the ship's mechanic sent him an invoice for $10,000, and the ship owner was not happy. So the ship's mechanic, came in, talked to him. He said, "Well, why was it so difficult? It was just a 1 minute fix." And the mechanic said, "Well, it was $5 for my time, and it was $9,995 for knowing which bolt to turn." So basically, just all to say that there's value in that experience of knowing which checkbox to check and which things to delete. It could turn a normally uneventful routine thing into a whole afternoon or day's worth of downtime.
Well, you don't have to sell me on that, because that whole story that you told about how to do that made me feel like my grandmother learning how to play solitaire for the first time. So I'm sold.
Yep.
I'm right there with you. So number 9 on your list, segging very smoothly right along. Former employees with active AD user accounts.
Okay, so that's similar, except a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
So the computer passwords that are in stale computers, those passwords aren't really normally seen by us. So we, it's an attack vector, but it's not a critical attack vector. Okay. Somebody that has a lot of skill can exploit that. However, when we leave employees that are no longer in the organization we leave their accounts active, that can also leave many other entry points active and ready for them to go in and look at. So the danger here is that you've got former employees that maybe they left on good terms, maybe they didn't.
Maybe they left on good terms and changed their minds after they were gone. This happens too.
That's true. So you've got former employees that are no longer at the company that still have access to company resources.
Right.
And so I can't tell you how many times I've found that. And when I bring that up to the owner, their answer is always, "I thought my IT company handled that."
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's not being handled.
Okay. That's dangerous.
Absolutely.
And
so how do you remedy that? Real quick, very easy. One, you disable the account yourself, or you delete it. Now, we have a process that we use internally, because many times there are other credentials, there are email accounts, email boxes, lots of things tied to that account, so you don't want to delete it right away. There may be an email archiving that needs to be done prior to that deletion, or forwarding, or things like that. And some of those things, once you delete them, if you don't have them backed up, they're gone.
It's like lighting your file box on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to be real careful how you do that. Again, we have a procedure internally that we do that with, where we'll ask you, what do you need? Do you need their email? Do you need it archived? Do you need it forwarded to somebody? We ask all those questions. But if you want to remedy that yourself, you can always disable the account, or you can call your IT company and tell them specifically what you need when you're firing, or even better, involve them before you do the termination, because sometimes you got to coordinate to make sure that termination is handled in a timely fashion.
Right, and which means that you also need an IT company that's going to be super professional if you're involving them in that level of your business. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so item number 8, and this one I think is most relevant to what we've been hearing in the news lately and what we've been writing about in our blog and on our Facebook page all the time, is the danger of outdated or out of support operating systems and software.
Yeah, I still run into people running Windows XP, and you know what? There's a time and a place for it. So there are some systems, particularly in the medical field, believe it or not, that are behind. We find them in the medical field. We also find them in industrial systems, where they're way behind because those systems are tied to machines that may cost $150,000,
right,
$300,000, and I don't know why the manufacturers do this, but in order, it's a gotcha. And this day and age, at this point in time, I just don't think it's necessary for them to keep doing this. It's not in the best interest. You've got a perfectly good machine, but then you just have to replace the computer, but they will not sell you just the computer. You have to buy the whole $300,000 thing again. So anyway, that's my rant. But I don't
know what you're talking about with your disposable technology. Every single July, I have to learn about my new phone.
Yeah, new phone. Yeah, but that's a $600-700 device. When you're talking about a $300,000 CAT scan, or $500,000 CAT scan, or $500,000 laser cutting table, those things are a big deal. And having to replace one over a $1,500 computer, let's just be reasonable here. So what happens is doctors and metal fabricators and all sorts of companies keep these machines, and they still have Windows XP with all of its vulnerabilities, or they'll have Vista or an older operating system with its vulnerabilities. They keep them, and they haven't been patched with the latest patches available, which is terrible. This is what we saw with Petya.
Right.
Or they don't take any what we call compensating controls. So fence those systems off in their own network that maybe has internet access blocked.
That makes sense. So that they don't touch any other machine on your network.
Right. So those are some of the things that we do to make sure that those systems, a vulnerability in those systems, doesn't carry over to the rest of the network.
That's such a big deal that one of the things I was reading when I was researching about the Petya and not Petya malware thing that's happening lately is that Windows realized that and WannaCry was such a big threat that even though Windows had said we are not going to support Windows XP anymore, they still put out a patch for those particular vulnerabilities anyway.
Yeah, that was so critical that they said we got to do this. You can't rely on Microsoft seeing the absolute importance of a patch.
Obviously that's what we learned here in the news those last couple of months. That's what it's been all about.
So I keep seeing these systems intermingled with newer systems, opening up all sorts of vulnerabilities. And again, if something cannot be mitigated by replacement, then we have to mitigate it by compensating controls.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. So we've been on almost 15 minutes. We covered 3 of them. We got a whole 10 of them to go.
Yep.
So we're going to leave some more for next week.
Absolutely. And then at the end of the series, I think we'll have a document that you guys can download. They'll have an offer.
Oh, you're going to make them wait all the way to the end?
Oh, yeah. Gotta wait.
Oh, you got to wait all the way to the end to watch. So we should be wrapped up with this in about, 2-3 weeks? Oh, next week we have a special guest.
Yes, that's going to be exciting. Lisa Chastain, who is our attorney and also our partner and a lot of our clients' attorneys. She specializes in
cybersecurity, privacy, a lot of fun stuff. I've had the chance to do some really neat collaboration with her on some projects that I'm under non-disclosure agreements, so that's probably about all I can tell you. But basically, the projects are just really cool. Some of them are unfortunate, companies that get hacked, but it is really nice to be able to help them to go through the process of determining if they got hacked, and any reporting requirements that they have to federal and state authorities and local authorities.
The short version of the story is, if something bad happens to your network, this is the person you want to have on your team.
Oh yeah.
And she's going to be here next week talking to you with Angel about. I actually, they haven't narrowed it down. They made a long list, and now they have to pick which one they think is the most exciting.
Next week's episode will be about 5 or 6 days long.
No, I'll be back here with my finger on the button.
Jessica's here to kind of stop that from happening.
Moderator.
But you don't want to miss it, because Lisa's fascinating. She's incredibly intelligent and well-researched and knows her stuff.
Awesome.
So she's a valuable resource if you're dealing with any sensitive data, or if your business has suffered from any kind of hacking or cyber attack.
Awesome. So I'm looking forward to that next week.
Cool.
We'll talk about it then, and I appreciate you guys tuning in this week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great week.